You see, the press has been the media in this country,
right?
In America,
in America
has been bad. Just, the word I'm looking for there is bad. It's the only one I can think of right now because that's what they are, Stu.
Well, I agree.
Stu, they're what I would say, in other words, this media, this press is, I call them bad. I keep coming back to that because that's what they are.
Right. You handled that wonderfully.
Thank you. Now, we were just talking about the employment numbers, and it's pretty amazing because we were all, we're kind of doing the, if George Bush was in office, here's what they do thing, even though I know it's tired, but in this particular case, as they pivot back to the economy for the 19th time, we're just kind of remembering the way it was when the unemployment rate actually was in the 4s at certain times during the Bush administration, but it averaged the 5s somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it still wasn't good to the media. I mean, it was awful. And even when it went down, the jobs that were being created were referred to, and maybe you remember this, as McJobs, because they were all supposedly McDonald's type jobs that were low wage earning situations.
Yeah.
Now, with this administration, didn't we hear 80% of the new jobs that have been created in the last quarter or this year, or what was the stat? 80% of them were part-time.
Yeah, part-time jobs.
And nobody's calling them McJobs.
No. In fact, those part-time jobs are even in the lower area. There's over 69% of the jobs created in the last quarter, and over 57% of all the jobs created in the first half of 2013 were created in the 3 lowest wage sectors of the economy.
Jeez.
So
wow.
These are lower wage. Have you heard the McJobs argument lately?
No,
probably not. The number that I talked about just a moment ago, which was because a lot of people have said, all right, if the labor participation rate, the same amount of people wanted to work, the unemployment rate would be about 12%. If they just stayed in the workforce and tried to get a job that whole time, the unemployment rate would be about 12%. Now, that's an interesting stat, but maybe you're thinking,
yes, it is.
Maybe that's because what happened was people jumped out of the economy and never came back because of the recession. Okay, let's take that on. If you just take the labor participation rate from the peak of the unemployment rate, so when unemployment rate hits 10%, you say, all right, at least that many people should still be trying to work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the worst as the economy got. If you just keep that level, there would be no improvement. We would still be at 10% unemployment. 100% of the improvement in the unemployment rate has come from people dropping out of the economy. That is not something you brag about in 19 different pivots, okay? That is something that you are embarrassed about, and you certainly don't get reelected with that record. I'll tweet this chart out at World of Stew if you want to check it out. I'll tweet it out here in a second because you need to see the chart because you see the unemployment rate that everybody reports, it drops slightly, again, to a level that we would have been embarrassed about, and the media was embarrassed about when Bush was in office.
Oh, it's cataclysmic when Bush was in office.
Yeah, you'd never even consider a rate this bad. They were bashing this guy for a 5.1% unemployment rate.
Yeah.
And this is when he was getting reelected in 2004, and people were saying, Republicans defending him were saying, that's lower than the average of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. His unemployment rate is lower than the average of the 70s, 80s, and
that's
90s.
when a lot of times you'd hear, yeah, but they're McJobs. They're McJobs.
Yeah.
They're all McDonald's low-paying jobs. They're crappy jobs.
Yeah.
Okay. But, we're spinning this, of course, in favor of George W. Bush, even though I'm not necessarily even a fan. But the thing is, we've left out one important element to all of this.
We were spinning, and we've left out important elements?
Yes,
are we
have.
MSNBC? What is the...
Apparently.
Okay.
Apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll see why in a moment. Because had the steps not been taken that have been taken by this president, think how bad it could have been.
A lot worse.
A lot worse.
So people kind of say, yeah, but unemployment's still at 9.6. Yes, but it's not 12 or 13.
Amen.
Or 15 or 35.
Yeah, he didn't go
He
far
makes
enough.
a really good point there. At least unemployment is not 83%.
It could be 89%.
It could be 89.9 or 95%.
It's possible that 103% of this population
Could
would
be unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Had he not taken it's not as bad as it might have been had I not taken these steps that I've taken.
So how good does 8.2 look now?
Yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Looks
Really
you're
does.
doing really well.
Yeah.
Mr. President, you're right. It's not 50% unemployment rate
Yeah.
right now.
There's one more
So good for you.
stat out of this economic collection of data, which I thought was interesting. So there's a measure in the economy of people who are working part-time for economic reasons. So it's not because they want to they only want to work 10 hours a week and that's it. They can't get a full-time job. They can only get a part-time job. So when the peak of the recession, it was at 9.2 million people were in that situation. Really bad. 9.2 million people working part-time. They couldn't get a full-time job. And as the economy slightly improved, it went from 9.2 million down to 7.6 million. That's still a terrible number, but a fall from 9.2 to 7.6 million. What's the number today?
4.2 million.
No, 8.2 million.
Wait, that's more.
It's increased.
It's gone back up.
It's gone back up.
Yeah, but at least it's not, 44.6.
That's true. I can't argue with that.
You can't.
It is not 44.6 million.
It's not 108 million.
It's not.
It could be worse.
I can't argue with that either.
Can you argue that it could? It absolutely couldn't be 298 million people. No, you can't.
No, I can't.
It could be almost everybody in the country,
Yeah.
but it's not, Stu.
And that is what's amazing. Maybe we're rehashing too much here. Maybe we're going back to the Bush administration. Maybe we're going back to the election. But think, this guy was just reelected as president of the United States
Based on all this.
on the slogan, it could be worse.
And he was.
And it worked.
It really did.
We deserve everything that we get.
Matt?